What's up, y'all? My name is Cordell, aka Hot Cocoa, and I just made one of the sickest drum racks I've made all year, and I'm going to show you exactly how I made it. So if that sounds cool, stick around. Okay, like I said, this is one of my favorites that I've made in a really long time, and I'm going to break it down for you in 4 steps how I went from absolutely nothing to having this super epic acid breaks drum rack. So step 1 is to get inspired and to find the materials that you're going to use to make a drum rack like this. In my case, I just bought this epic EP called Acid Breaks from Intrinsic Music, and I was just listening to this, 1, because it was amazing, and 2, I was thinking of DJing this kind of stuff, but as I was listening to one of these tracks, it hit me that this was perfect for chopping up into a drum rack, and I just wanted to get to work right away. One of the things that made this track perfect, and something you can look out for if you're trying to chop up something to make a drum rack, is isolated individual parts, because a lot of tracks have a lot of reverb and extra tail and synths and things playing at the exact same time, so when you chop it up you get these kind of like mashes of noise. But in this particular track by S-Merc, what I found is the different sections, it was almost like fill after fill after fill where there were isolated sounds and parts, and that's perfect for chopping up because when you hit it on a pad or a drum rack, it only plays that isolated part, so it just works perfectly for this kind of thing. I've used a lot of sample packs before. I make a lot of my own sample packs, and I've chopped up almond breaks and things like that, but this is one of the first times I've really chopped up a full track. So keep an ear out for things that feel choppable, and especially things that you're inspired by, because the more you're in love with the track, the more fun you're going to have chopping it up and rearranging it and just getting dirty with it. Step 2 is to start to chop this track up and get the bits that you really want to use. So of course I dropped it into Ableton, I found the right tempo, and then I just listened through the track. Every time I found something that I would want to use, I would just chop it out. You can highlight the whole section and pull it down onto a different track. You can hit Command E to make individual slices if you want to. So I'm just going through the whole track, finding the bits that I like, and started putting them onto different individual tracks that I've labeled into different categories so that I can go back and know what I grabbed. I got short kicks, I got long kicks, I got short snares, long snares, I got lead synths with vocal chops as like another category. Of course I had to get percussion and drum breaks that I can chop up in here. And then I also got crashes and kind of general atmospheres. Now step 3 is taking all these bits that you found and actually putting them into a drum rack. I'm using Ableton, but there's a ton of different software that you can use in order to make your own drum racks and live drum performance type deals. Today I'm just going to be using Ableton and an Ableton Push 2. Now depending on your setup, you can make a drum rack with 16 pads, tends to be the standard. Sometimes there's controllers and things that have 8 pads, that's more than enough to make a sick drum rack. In my case I decided to go for 64 because there were just so many awesome samples in this track that I had room for all 64 pads, so I went for 64 in this one. Once you start to place your samples in the drum rack, you can just drag and drop. Something that's going to be really important for this is finding a choke group, especially in my case for these long snares and these long kick samples. They overlap, and when they overlap, because you hit them at the same time or close to each other, it can get really messy and nasty and hard to listen to. But if you go into this menu right here, there's a little drop down menu for choke channels, so you can have a bunch of things choking other things, which just means when one sample starts, another sample in the same choke group will stop, so they can't actually play at the same time. So I put all of my long snares and all of my long bass kicks on the same choke group so that they don't overlap. This is also a good time to start to address the gain or the volume of each sample, the velocity, sensitivity, if you want stuff to get louder and quieter when you change your velocities, or if you don't want your velocities to change, you can slam this down to 0. This is where you're going to start to customize how each sample is expressed in your drum rack. Finally, step 4 is when you find some playable patterns that feel good to you. What I want to stress here is you don't have to play the exact track that you're chopping up. In fact, it can be way more fun to play something completely different from the original track that you heard. I think the key here is to use your own playing style, hit your own skill level, find your own sensibilities with these samples, and you can still, even though it's somebody else's track, it's a whole other thing, you can still express yourself through through these noises, if you start to dial it in with your own style. So if you can do that, then one of the most important parts is just have fun. Like, this is the funnest part of just figuring out the different patterns and the different styles. Feel free to explore, try out different things, move different pads around into different directions, and eventually, like, some of it might just seem like weird noise or not really kind of finding a groove, but eventually you'll find little pockets and little patterns that just sound so freaking cool, especially if you start off with some really good samples. And so that's what I did. I started to go through and I found these different types of patterns, like this one. Or this one. Or this one. And then once you've got these different patterns, you can start to string them together and make like a coherent performance. Boom! If you thought that was cool, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a comment down below if there's any other finger drumming or e-drumming techniques you want me to explore. Check out the rest of the channel if you want some more tips on building drum racks or getting creative with your process. I've got a Patreon down below as well if you want to dive into some more in-depth project breakdowns. And you can check out upwardacts.com if you want some creativity resources with articles, podcasts, like all kinds of different things that'll help you create to the best of your abilities. Until next time, peace.